The wind screamed across Oak Island as Rick Lagina stood at the edge of the unknown, his weathered hands trembling, not from the icy gusts, but from the enormity of what lay before him. For generations, this cursed island had jealously guarded its secrets, swallowing treasure hunters, devouring fortunes, and crushing dreams. But today felt different. Today, Oak Island seemed ready to reveal the treasure it had concealed for over 7 centuries. Beneath Rick's boots, something ancient stirred in the darkness, something that had waited, sealed in stone and shadow, for this precise moment. He didn't realize it yet, but he was about to unlock a threshold that would rewrite history itself. The greatest secret of the Knights Templar was on the verge of emerging after more than 700 years. But before we uncover what lay behind that ancient barrier, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because what you're about to see is nothing short of legendary. At 140 feet below the wind-lashed surface, the drills struck an anomaly. It wasn't broken shale or fractured limestone, it was unnaturally smooth, perfectly flat, a slab that fit like a piece of a puzzle, something no natural process could ever form. The crew froze. Rick stepped forward, brushing damp soil aside with gloved hands, his breath misting in the frigid air. This wasn't random geology, it was deliberate. Ground-penetrating radar confirmed what everyone instinctively felt. A rectangular void stretched behind the stone, a hidden cavity where no cavity should exist. The monitor glowed, each contour revealing a secret waiting to be explored. Marty muttered, "Looks like a room." Rick leaned in, whispering, "Not a room, a doorway." Analysis came quickly. Iron traces embedded in the stone hinted at hinges, metal forged by human hands centuries ago. Even after all this time underground, the heat of the blacksmith's fire lingered in the very essence of the metal. Rick's mind raced back to the mysterious stone triangle discovered in the 1800s, long dismissed as coincidence. Could that triangle have been a guide, pointing directly to this hidden entrance? The team exchanged silent glances, all realizing the same shocking truth. The door, spoken of in centuries-old journals and legends, was no metaphor. It was real, an engineered gate, waiting for this exact moment of discovery. The myths surrounding Oak Island ran deeper than anyone imagined. Long before European explorers arrived, Macmac oral traditions spoke of a sleeping gateway, sealed by elemental forces, warning that anyone who disturbed it would face both fortune and peril. The weight of those words pressed on Rick. Now, at the threshold, the historical echoes were undeniable. In fragile French explorer journals from the 1600s, one faded line leapt out. A door of stone, sealed with oil and blood. Scholars had once scoffed, but here it was before their eyes. A slab that matched the description to the letter. Rick and Marty connected the dots, drawing parallels to medieval practices where sacred relics and forbidden treasures were hidden beneath fortified chapels, protected not by guards, but by symbols, architecture, and intricate design. Could Oak Island have been their final stronghold, their hidden archive, their sanctuary? The crew remembered centuries of reports, lantern lights flickering across the swamp, shadows moving mysteriously over the money pit. Now, the truth hit. These weren't hauntings, they were guardians, shadows protecting a secret that had endured through time. The chilling realization grew clearer by the second. Oak Island wasn't merely booby-trapped, it had been ritually and meticulously designed, a fusion of faith, science, and secrecy carved into stone. And the proof lay in the details. Close inspection of the slab revealed etched concentric circles, carefully aligned stars, and recurring crosses, deliberate, precise, and mathematical. These weren't random scratches or vandalism, they were a code. Experts soon identified the shocking connection. The symbols resembled a cipher wheel, a mechanical code reminiscent of those used by the Knights Templar between 1100 and 1300 to secure their most precious vaults. Rick studied the carvings and froze. The patterns aligned perfectly with the night sky of 1307, the very year the Templars were betrayed across Europe. Was it coincidence or a timestamp left in stone to mark the flight of their greatest secret? The parallels to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland were undeniable. Arches, stars, crosses, every element executed with the same geometric intent. Across oceans, across centuries, history spoke through stone. Weeks of painstaking reconstruction lay ahead, but one truth was already clear. Oak Island's hidden door was more than a myth. It was a message, a monument, and a mystery that had waited 700 years to be revealed. The team soon grasped a staggering truth. These weren't mere symbols to be observed. They were components of a functional mechanism, a primitive lock built directly into the stone slab, waiting for the correct sequence to trigger it. This wasn't just a door. It was a code-protected gateway, concealed beneath Oak Island for more than 700 years, but deciphering the mechanism was only the start. LiDAR scans peeled back centuries of mystery in layers of digital light, and what appeared on the monitors stunned the crew into silence. The stone wasn't a simple barrier wedged by collapse. It was interlocked with gear-like teeth, meshing seamlessly into the surrounding bedrock. The precision of the engineering was undeniable. This was deliberate architecture, hidden under mud and salt water, crafted to endure centuries of erosion and tide. Further scans revealed the slab's hinge points, reinforced with metal not native to Nova Scotia. Analysis showed an alloy identical to medieval Iberian forges, right from Spain, a region where the Knights Templar had flourished before their downfall. Marty, still skeptical, suggested maybe a later engineer had placed it there, post-colonial, but radiocarbon dating crushed that notion. Oak fragments recovered from supporting timbers sealed behind the stone, dated between 1290 and 1310, the exact years the Templars disappeared from Europe. The math didn't lie. This was not pirate handiwork nor colonial trickery. It was a medieval gate. Buried long before Columbus reached the Americas, hydraulic models estimated the slab weighed over 20 tons, a feat seemingly impossible for the era. Yet here it was, engineered to withstand water, gravity, and the relentless march of time. Rick ran his hand across the intricate carvings, one last time, and spoke the truth they all now understood. This was no trap. It was a door concealed with intention, designed to endure, awaiting the precise moment in history when it would finally be revealed. The moment of truth arrived with electric intensity as the drills bit into the slab's edge. A hiss erupted, a rush of compressed air escaping, like the exhale of a giant. Finally released, centuries of confinement had trapped the air, which smelled metallic, stale, and pungent with pitch, cedar oil, and something darker. Gas sensors flared. Mercury historians knew the Templars had used it both to preserve treasures and ward off intruders. The toxic warning lingered, daring anyone to proceed. Rick steadied the team. His tone was calm, but the weight of centuries hung in every word. They were prying open something meant to remain untouched, sealed by hands bound by oaths stronger than life itself. The drills continued, the slab groaning under stress, fractures spiderwebbing across its surface. Dust filled the beam of the torches, swirling in the stale, metallic air, until finally a fragment cracked free. Through the narrow gap, they glimpsed blackness deeper than night, not mere absence of light, but the presence of something heavy and waiting. A splinter of oak recovered from inside, dated precisely to 1290 to 1310. The era when the Templars vanished from European strongholds, their treasure fleets unaccounted for, their archives erased. The implication was undeniable. What had disappeared in Europe may have resurfaced here, hidden beneath Oak Island. With one final push, the slab shifted, sliding along the interlocked teeth, and the void opened. After centuries of silence, the gate yielded. Stepping inside felt like entering another world. The first step into the chamber was suffocating. Torchlight danced across smooth walls coated with lime, a waterproofing technique unknown in the New World at that time. Whoever had built this understood how to resist the ocean itself. Faded red pigments decorated the walls, solar discs, crescent moons, and a seven-pointed star, faintly glowing under the torchlight. Rick recognized the geometry instantly. The esoteric seal of Solomon, a symbol tied to forbidden wisdom and mystical protection. Wooden scaffolding lined the chamber, beams joined with advanced precision that no colonial craftsman could achieve. Every mortise, every cut, spoke of an organized, deliberate workforce, not opportunistic treasure hunters. This was no vault, it was a sanctuary, a monument in darkness. A subtle scent lingered, resin, incense, tar, and oil. But beneath it was something else, almost imperceptible, the ghost of ceremonial fire. This chamber had once been consecrated, ritualistically prepared, and guarded by design, not chance. As they ventured deeper, the tunnel opened into a dome-shaped chamber. The acoustics were uncanny. Every breath, every shuffle echoed and multiplied, as if the space itself amplified sound. Words spoken here became prayers, oaths, or chants meant to bind the chamber. In ritual, Rick's torch swept the walls, revealing small alcoves carved into the stone. Shards of rusted daggers, chain fragments, and pottery remnants remained, nothing complete, but nothing random. Each object was a deliberate deposit, a signpost left by those who built this place. The floor told its own story. Layers of ash, carbonized wood, and bone fragments mingled with oils not native to Nova Scotia. The chamber had been lit by flame, perhaps many times, not to destroy, but to consecrate. Fire had marked the walls, etched into the air itself, leaving a heaviness that clung to every flickering torch flame. At the chamber's center stood a raised dais, geometrically precise, with spiraling grooves carved into its surface. Rick traced the channels with his fingers. This wasn't a religious altar. It was mechanical, part of a far larger system, waiting to be understood. The team's unease turned to awe when a crew member tapped the raised dais with a metal rod. The sound that echoed back was unmistakable, a deep, resonant boom that seemed to come from beneath the chamber itself. The floor wasn't solid. Something lay hidden below, waiting, sealed behind the puzzle of the days. Careful observation revealed its secret. Dust and debris gave way to interlocking panels, each fitted with such precision that at first glance they seemed seamless. But closer inspection told the truth. These panels formed a labyrinth, intricate lines intersecting like a riddle carved in stone. Rick crouched, tracing faint grooves worn smooth over centuries, subtle evidence of deliberate movement. The floor wasn't static. It was engineered to shift, sliding into place only when weight was applied correctly. The similarity to known Templar craftsmanship was uncanny. In Portuguese castles, the order had built trapdoor puzzles beneath chapels, and hidden staircases revealed only when stones were pressed in the correct sequence. And here, across an ocean, and centuries later, the same genius had left its mark. Recognition heightened, rather than diminished, the danger. The crew hesitated. Marty warned that a misstep could collapse the chamber. If the panels weren't designed to move smoothly, forcing them could bury the men alive. Rick countered that the meticulous construction was proof of purpose. This wasn't designed to kill the knowledgeable, it was meant to thwart the uninitiated. Timbers were carefully placed across pressure points, distributing weight evenly, each adjustment debated and measured. Then, finally, the moment arrived. A low groan rolled through the chamber as one section of the floor slid backward, retracting like a massive stone drawer. Torchlight spilled downward, revealing hand-carved stairs descending into darkness. The chamber exhaled a rush of cold, sharp air, as though the earth itself had been holding its breath. Step by step, the crew descended. The narrow stairway opened into a passage that ended at something both breathtaking and intimidating. There stood another barrier, a massive oak door, reinforced with iron, sealed with pitch that gleamed dark even after centuries. Crossbars spanned its width, signaling strength and warning in equal measure. This was no casual barrier, it was a miniature fortress. Every detail told a story. The hinges bore a double cross insignia, identical to those carved into Templar gravestones across France, a clear mark of identity. Here was a direct signature of the order, etched onto the threshold of Oak Island's deepest secret. Above the door, engraved into the lintel, were Latin words, Solus, Fidelis Transit, Indignus. Only the faithful may pass, the unworthy shall perish. The warning paused them, but Rick's determination didn't falter. Oak Island had never been about mere gold or relics. Each chamber, each symbol, each artifact told the same story. Guardianship, loyalty, secrecy, and sacrifice were required. Before the iron-bound door, they weren't simply opening a vault. They were stepping into the heart of the Guardian's design. Sparks flew as plasma cutters bit into the crossbars, the air filling with the acrid smell of burning metal. Every strike sent shivers through the stone, as if the chamber itself resisted intrusion. The final bar shattered with a screech, clattering to the floor amid embers. The pitch sealing the door was next. Heated blades sliced through centuries-old resin, and with a sudden crack, the seal fractured. A surge of stale air burst forth, but it carried a faint, sweet aroma of cedar, preserved like incense over hundreds of years. The scent alone testified to deliberate preservation, an ancient method to protect what lay beyond. The door groaned open. Floodlights cut through the darkness, revealing a chamber that stole their breath. Stone shelves lined the walls, carved with meticulous precision. Bronze and clay vessels, iron-bound chests, and reliquaries, shaped like miniature shrines, filled the space. The arrangement was deliberate. This was a curated archive, a sanctuary disguised as a vault. Gold glimmered across countless surfaces, coins spilling from open containers, hammered ingots catching every reflection, chalices gleaming under torchlight. It wasn't scattered treasure, it was catalogued, preserved with intention. Crew members froze, overwhelmed not just by the wealth, but by the care with which it had been protected. The first artifacts they examined were gold reliquaries, inlaid with sapphires, rubies, and pearls. These had once housed relics of immense sanctity, fragments of the true cross, bone shards of saints, objects of deep spiritual significance. Oak Island had not been a hiding place for casual loot. It had been a sanctuary for holy treasures rescued during the Templar suppression. Lower shelves held stacks of hammered gold ingots, each stamped with medieval Portuguese mint marks. Dates aligned perfectly with the Templars' maritime activity in the 12th and 13th centuries. Individually, each ingot was valuable. Collectively, their historical significance was priceless. Sealed scroll tubes, still capped with wax, were clustered in wooden crates. One had cracked open slightly, revealing rolled parchment, potentially Templar codices, shipping manifests, or charters, thought lost in the papal purge. The possibility that written Templar records had crossed the Atlantic was staggering. Ceremonial swords with gem-encrusted hilts and silver chalices rimmed with emeralds lay alongside. These weren't functional weapons or trade goods. They were regalia, intended for ritual and sacred ceremony. Every artifact confirmed the chamber's purpose: sacred wealth, not commerce. Preliminary estimates placed the treasure's value over $90 million, but the cultural and historical significance dwarfed any monetary figure. This was lost, Christendom preserved, a bridge between myth and history. For historians, the chamber was revelation. For treasure hunters, it was the culmination of centuries of obsession. But scanning equipment hinted the discovery was only the beginning. The vault walls held anomalies, dense cavities suggesting adjoining chambers. One outline, more striking than the first, indicated a second door, massive, carefully carved into stone, untouched for centuries. Oak Island's secrets were far from exhausted. The markings hinted at a threshold on a scale far grander than the vault they had just breached. What lay beyond suggested an entirely new purpose. Not simply a treasury, but a repository of knowledge, relics, and secrets too vast to be contained in a single chamber. Rick studied the symbols with intense focus, his voice calm but firm as he spoke his theory aloud. This was not a conventional treasure hoard. It was an underground archive, meticulously constructed by exiled Templars to safeguard more than gold: their wisdom, their faith, their most closely guarded secrets. What they had uncovered was likely only a fragment of a vast network stretching across continents, perhaps connected by clandestine voyages erased from history. The implications were staggering. If Oak Island concealed not just material wealth, but knowledge, a coded record of a suppressed order, then the significance reached far beyond Nova Scotia. The island could be just one node in a global hidden system, a secret library built beneath the very foundation of history itself. As the crew prepared to exit the chamber, their footsteps echoed through the dome, multiplying across the carefully engineered acoustics. The sound was almost alive, a reminder that Oak Island does not surrender its secrets easily. It demands patience, endurance, and above all, respect. The vault they had opened was not the conclusion of the quest. It was the prologue to a far larger mystery. With every artifact catalogued, every hidden cavity hinted at, it became clear that the story of Oak Island and the reach of the Knights Templar across the Atlantic centuries before Columbus was only beginning to be told. History had shifted beneath their feet, and the world had yet to grasp the full scale of what had been preserved in silence for over 700 years.